Okay, this is going to be day 4 of 3D printing a useful item every single day for an entire year. And for this time, I am doing a basically a rotating platform with gears. I've actually never really experimented with making projects with gears. So this is kind of a first for what I've actually had experience with. So I wanted to do something a little interesting and have a rotating platform that is going to eventually end up getting a main platform for my 3D scanner. And as for the project itself, as you can kind of see here, I'm using a gear generator here for my project, and it is simply being used for the um, for the gears itself. It helps you model, like it generates a model of the gear. So it's a very useful add-on if you are using Fusion to download that add-on so that you're able to generate the gears so you don't actually have to model them up completely yourself. And you can kind of see here, and for most of the time in this initial modeling set of videos, I have a inner diameter of 10.5, but I ended up changing that later in the video here because I did not have a lot of hardware that would fit the bearing spacers that I was going to use that were that 10.5 diameter. I just don't have a ton of hardware for that, so I ended up switching to basically a 5 millimeter, no, 6 millimeter inner diameter, and that is going to be what I ended up using for the um, inner rods for them to actually ride on. And as you can see here, I'm kind of just mocking up the general box here. You can see I'm kind of crafting each gearbox, kind of putting each gear into place. You can see here that big gear is about 45 teeth. That intermediary gear is going to be meshing with that main drive gear, which is actually going to end up being 18 teeth, and that one also you can see is being placed on that gear plate there, and as you can see, it is now creating the actual drive function of the gear there. I decided to go with a hex drive at the time. I have a angle ratchet, cordless ratchet that I decided I was going to use as a basically to drive the gear itself. You can see it's got a shank there, and then a lot of this is just me deciding, kind of going around trying to see what looks best. You can see the large platform there that is going to be the end goal. So, as you can see as well, now currently I'm just adding some risers to the actual base itself. That is going to help me further so that I'm actually able to put screws there because there just wasn't a ton of clearance as it is. I had to have some way of attaching them. So you can see I'm kind of going through the menu, trying to figure out what size socket is best for it. After I decided on the 19 millimeter socket, I ended up kind of trying to figure out what is best. And this is ultimately where I do change the diameters of the shank of the gear itself, of changing it from the 10.5 down to the 6. This just helped immensely with not having to use hardware I just don't have, since I'd rather use what I have currently.
Okay, and then I also have the other gear here. This is going to be here that this does bolt onto, like this. It will sit like that and be turned with it. And then I have the other two auxiliary gears here. This one here is the drive gear that I will drive with a socket here. And then I also have intermediary gear, and this is basically the one that meshes, that connects this one all over to this gear here. So I'm gonna get these off here. Might have to become right back. Okay, now I can take these off here. As you can see, they just need a minor bit of cleanup here, just cutting all these filament edges in.
Yeah, like I was mentioning, this is that main coupling I made that is going to actually interface with bolts with the main large gear and the actual rotating platform itself. This is the mechanism that I decided to use for it. Very simple, very easy. Okay, and then here is the actual platform itself that I made this morning. It ended up changing from those cylinder legs. It was very restrictive, really did not have much design freedom with those. It was really not meshing well with the overall design. So, and it was also extremely wasteful. So you can kind of see I did this trick for doing parts. It's a very, very useful trick that I learned is you use the spline point feature in sketches to actually sketch out holes in your model that are not really necessary, especially for prototyping. You're able to save a ton of space, and you just have to be very smart with how you place these and make sure it's not too obstructive so that you're still able to maintain the same functionality of your part. But it's an extremely useful way to save on filament rather than waste it and, you know, or just have to wait even longer because this was able to save me almost 3 hours of printing by alternating the design from the original compared to how it is now. You can see it was about 6 hours for it, but the original was quoted about almost 9 hours on top of 107 grams of filament compared to the 93 that it ultimately ends up being. You can see it is a extremely valuable tool to use when doing sketches. And actually, for the final part of the assembly is when it's actually everything is all printed. You can see I have the base out there from that earlier design. You can see with all the holes cut out. You can see I'm placing all the screws. Originally, I went with regular hex head screws with just normal nut and washer type, but I ended up changing the design slightly and used skateboard bearings with nylon locking nuts. It was as well as skateboarding speed washers. And that's ultimately what I decided making it with, and it made the gears spin extremely freely. Everything it spins smoothly, and yeah, with that, I think the project was a success. But yes, with that, please like it if you like it, dislike it if you hate it, leave a comment if you'd like, and thank you again for watching. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more. Thank you.